No, the title of this video is not clickbait-ish. In addition to all the controllers out there that are designed, inspired by, or to emulate the N64 controller, but for the Nintendo Switch, Nintendo themselves made an original N64 controller with the release of the N64 Nintendo Switch Online. This is all old news. This is nothing new. This is a while ago. That was for free if you had a Switch Online account, but it was limited run, which means if you want to try and buy one on eBay, you might get one with a closed box for $70, $80, $90. But like I said, there are other companies out there that make controllers that are supposed to sort of replicate the experience of a Nintendo 64 controller, or at least the functionality. But I also then had another thought. First of all, to back up a little bit, why am I even trying to replicate an N64 controller? Well, to be honest, I kind of like the N64 controller. I think ergonomically it worked very well. I have good memories of it, and the Z trigger was really cool, but it was also really cool in conjunction with the design of the controller itself. Yes, a third of the controller was pretty much never used, but there was an additional thing about the N64 that made the N64 controller, in my opinion, work a lot better. To back it up, Nintendo Switch Online released Nintendo and Super Nintendo Switch Online. And to be honest, yes, you could get controllers out there like 8-Bit Do, which makes incredible controllers that mimic the not N64, the Super Nintendo. But if you didn't have an extra controller, the layout of the buttons on the Switch Joy-Cons or on the Pro Controller fit quite well with the Nintendo or the Super Nintendo layout. But with the N64, there was something a little bit different, and you had the C buttons. With the C buttons, programming those buttons while you can on the N64 Switch Online games, it becomes a little bit tricky because of the layout of the Switch buttons. With the N64, the C buttons fell to the thumb just like the A and B buttons, and that makes a big difference, especially when the C buttons are being used functionally for more than just kind of like side menu items. They're actually functional. So with this in mind, I decided to do a little bit of a search to see if I could find a controller out there that was either kind of original or from a reputable company like 8-Bit Do. Now, I've mentioned them twice, so that's a little bit of foreshadowing as to what's going to happen next. I went on 8-Bit Do's website, knowing that they don't really make an N64 controller like an original one, but I thought, let me just take a look. Maybe there's something I missed. And lo and behold, while they don't have the controller, they do have this, a conversion kit. Now, the conversion kit comes in multiple stages, the top of which is a new PCB, the rumble pack, and a Hall effect joystick. And this full package costs about $40. If you have a controller, you've got something to convert. If you don't have a controller, this is where things get a little interesting because yes, you could go to a retro gaming store or used gaming store or thrift shop or whatever, and you can get or find an original N64 controller. But what you'll also pick up on, and if you don't pick up on it, I'll point to it right now, because of the fact that you're replacing a number of parts in the controller, you can probably get a controller for even cheaper than you might already have found. There are controllers out there that are not good condition, namely the joystick, which is known to become very floppy and loose, like here. No good. In effect, you don't actually need a controller that's functional at all. You just need one that has the buttons. Because, as we're going to see, what you're actually doing is just replacing all the guts. So let's get started. So taking this thing apart is pretty straightforward. It's just a Phillips head screwdriver and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 screws, and then screw 8 and 9 inside the memory pack slot. But you just go ahead and gently take them all out. And at that point, you really just pull the two parts apart. On the back part is the Z button, which you can pop out of its cradle. And then if you look at the PCB and the grommet for the Z button itself, it's held in with two little tabs on the back of the joystick. So you want to gently separate those and pull that PCB off. And then you take out each part. And really at this point, it's just the same step over and over again. Take this part out, take that part out, and just keep an eye on how things went in so that you can put them back in. Then there's 3 more Phillips head screws holding the joystick in. So you want to take those out, and out comes the joystick with the PCB. Just be careful with the wire since it's sort of placed in this zigzag pattern. And then I unplugged the joystick in case that's the only thing you're replacing. Then you take out the PCB and take out the rest of the grommets and dump the buttons out. What I will say though, is if you notice now, you've just got two parts of a plastic shell and you've got your buttons. I highly recommend you just take a moment to scrub down these parts with soap and water, clean them up. The controller that you have is probably super old. Hopefully you took care of it, but if you didn't or you picked up a controller from somewhere else, just take the time to clean it out. I ended up cleaning mine out because there was a lot of gunk in there, and now it looks pretty much brand new. Now it's time to crack open the box, and once you open it, you see right in front of you is a set of instructions, which of course you won't need because this video is as clear as can be, but in case, you've got written instructions there. Got a little screwdriver there, that's nice, and a little charging cable, USB-A to USB-C. And then you have the important pieces. You have the PCB that's going to be replacing the PCB you took out, which is Bluetooth compatible. Looking very pretty there. And then you also have the rumble pack, which is where you're going to sync to your Switch, and your Hall effect sensing joystick that's going to replace probably the faulty one you have in there already. Things go back in the way they came out, and just take note of this port plug up top. There's only one way it can go in. The thicker part goes towards the front. Plugging in the joystick and setting in the PCB the way you had taken it out. Just be very gentle and make sure everything slots in fairly smoothly. Screw the new joystick back in the way you had taken the original one out. Snap in the PCB and grommet for the Z trigger, and gently, after aligning, place the back piece on once you've put the Z button back in. And you guessed it, screw the screws back in. And there you have it. A now fully converted N64 controller. And pairing it's just as simple. Press start to power it up, hold the pair button down till the blue light's flashing, go to change grip and order, and hit the shoulder buttons, and it should pop up. And that's all you have to do for the first time you pair it, and then subsequently all you really have to do after that is hit the start button and give it a couple seconds, and it should just be picked up by the Switch. And then it's just up and running. It's pretty much that simple. You don't have to follow just what I said in the video. It is all in the instructions that come with the actual kit. And I mean, there's really not much more to it than that. And that's pretty much it. As you saw, it's pretty seamless in getting it synced up with the Switch. But you now have what is effectively a functionally 8-bit do controller in the shell of an N64 original controller. If you're the type of person who misses this design, who loved the design and feels that part of the nostalgia is actually having the controller, but missed out on the exclusive limited run controller from Nintendo, you now have what I'd say is a pretty viable option, and with a fairly modern rendition of the joystick. Hopefully this helped you and motivated you to give it a shot. If it did, let me know. I wonder what the clicky button actually does. I didn't think about that. But let me know if you've tried this in the comments below. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you have a different sort of option or different approach to getting this level of authenticity. In the meantime, thanks for watching yet another random video that has nothing to do with anything else on this channel, and I will see you in another random video that has nothing to do with what you just saw.